What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. If we have not yet met, I'm your host, Johnny Nitafan. And in this episode, we have Jonathan Blacksmith on. And just to kind of introduce him, we have been, this is the guy who's really helped me out with marketing for about this whole year, pretty much. So since 2022 or 2023 started, we met up in January. We're able to talk some stuff. We've been doing a little bit of stuff together. But he's definitely been a huge help in my success just in the life insurance space. So we're going to be talking around just like success in the life insurance industry, what successful agents have, the traits that they have, just some marketing stuff. We're going to be talking a little bit about that stuff. But John, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, sir. Glad to be here.
Yeah. So so we met, interestingly enough, because we were in a few Facebook groups together, and I asked a few questions about retargeting. And I remember you shot me a DM, or you commented. I was like, bro, we need to talk. From there, pretty much like taking off from there. So which is really cool. Is that what you recall from how we met, or what would you say?
It's very similar, although you're like, hey, can you be my mentor? I'm like, I don't think I've ever been asked to be a mentor before. So yeah, so here we are.
Yeah. It's cool. Because you've been a huge help for me just in the marketing side, with like full transparency. Like I was just like trying to figure out the ad space, and because he's in Canada and I'm in the US, he was just like, hey, use these ads. And I was like, all right. So I used them and just started crushing. And that's when I was getting like a $30 acquisition cost, which was ridiculous. Like that was something that I like dreamt of. And I remember just like, it felt like I was printing money because I spent $350 like 4 weeks in a row. Facebook capped me. And I was still making I was issuing like 5 to 10 grand a week. And it was just ridiculous. So what background do you kind of have in the digital space and like the digital marketing space? And then like talk about that, your experiences on like the media buying as well.
Sure. Well, I've been kind of, since a kid, I've been making websites and stuff like that. So, back in the day when websites you had to like code by hand and all that kind of stuff, I'm kind of dating myself here, but I really wasn't interested because what happened was I dropped out of university, which is college. And what happened was I started up a company. We sold hockey jerseys, which is typical Canadian, I guess, right? And I was starting to get a lot of competition from not only local people, but from Chinese knockoffs, basically. They would buy jerseys from China and then sell them for half of what I actually paid for them, legally. So I started learning more about marketing and how to, first of all, it was about how do I sell more hockey jerseys, and then I started realizing how big the internet was, and
Yeah.
from there it was just a matter of, okay, well, what do I need to learn in order to start, helping either generate sales for myself or other people? And that's kind of where I kind of stumbled across, not only in the insurance stuff, but just sales in general, in sales psychology specifically, and marketing psychology. I think marketing kind of starts first and then sales. They go hand in hand. They're two different things, but you start with marketing and you end with the sale. So
Yeah. How'd you get into the insurance space?
My business partner is actually he's a broker, and his father is an accountant. So he basically gets all these leads kind of handed to him on a silver platter. But during COVID, what happened was he wasn't able to see people in person. So what happened was he wasn't getting these leads anymore. So he kind of tapped on my shoulder because he knew that I was doing marketing online, and we kind of connected there. And I started generating leads for our agency. I partnered with him. We started an agency, and in our first month, we did, I think, just over $30,000 in sales. But it was quite difficult to do that just because I was brand new when it comes to insurance. It's not very easy selling insurance online. I can tell you that, just because, not everybody goes online saying, hey, I want to buy insurance today. So
yeah, that's for sure. I kind of stumbled into the insurance industry the same way. Just my father-in-law was like, hey, I think you'd be good at this. And I think partially it was her, like, because I was getting married, obviously, and right before we got married, he's like, hey, I think you should step in the insurance space. And that's when I was working at Starbucks. And so I think partially it's like, hey, you need to like be able to make some money to actually provide instead of like working at Starbucks. Not hating on that, but I'm just like, I think that's partially why that happened. But no, it's cool because we've been able to do some cool stuff together, help a lot of people together in what we've been able to do. Not like working a ton together now, but it's cool to be able to still have a good relationship connection, kind of like go to somebody in the marketing space, because I'm like really focused on sales.
Yep.
So what you worked with a lot of like insurance agents recently. Talk a little bit about like what do you see like successful agents have, and like just some like maybe character traits that they may have, and then also like things that you see in them that like kind of like separate the bunch from like the people who do really well and people who don't.
I would say the most important thing is to be persistent. Persistence is the most important thing of anything when it comes to insurance. As like I've partnered with a lot of the people essentially, and I find the most successful ones there are the ones that as soon as lead calls them, they're calling right away, and they're consistently calling over and over again. And and if they get hung up on, they're trying again and again. So whereas the ones that aren't so successful, they might call the person a couple of days later, and and then they say, oh, these leads suck, and then they just give up on them. So
Yeah,
it's really about the mentality of you going into the insurance industry and saying, listen, I'm here to help people, as opposed to, oh, I just want to make a few sales here and there. If you can wrap your mind around the former and less than the latter, then you're gonna go pretty far in this business.
yeah, I agree. So you how's the agency doing in Canada?
The agency is doing pretty well in Canada. However, we're actually stepping back and we're doing more lead generation for other agencies, because we're realizing that there's a huge hole in the market right now for leads that evidently don't suck. Basically, there's one of the biggest ways people are generating leads is by using like sweepstakes for ads, and then the problem is that you're kind of leading with something that's not what people are thinking. So for example, they'll sign up for a sweepstakes, and then they'll have an agent call them a few days later or the next day or whatever, and saying, hey, I saw that you signed up for the sweepstakes here. Do you want to buy insurance? It's just like a total disconnect.
Yeah.
And it's discouraging for everybody involved, for not only the agent, but also for the person at the other end of the phone, because now they're getting spam called by 20 different people. So I think that what we're doing now, with Agent AI, for example, is we're just focusing more on the lead quality, making sure that we're getting the lead on time, and those are the two main things really, and then just making sure that the whole closing part kind of happens as long as you have the sales skills.
Yeah. So you're moving more into the kind of lead gen side. What are you mainly like focused on, like product wise, for that?
We do focus on final expense a lot, because there's such a massive need for final expense. Like, I don't know how many thousands of agents there are doing final expense. I'm sure there's tens of thousands, but you got to remember there's tens of millions of seniors that are underinsured right now, and it's actually getting worse. Every day that passes, there's more people retiring and more people that need insurance. So final expense is massive. It's just a huge opportunity, and like I don't think that the demand will ever surpass, basically, or rather the demand is just gonna be so massive for the longest time, and I don't think there's gonna be enough agents to kind of fulfill that. So anybody who has like a grasp on that they're going to be fed for a long time. So, and then our main focus is, general term, but really about young parents, because young parents, they're kind of lost financially, I'm finding these days. So they don't know who to trust, or who to talk to. And so we're finding with our advertising, it's actually really honing in on setting up your kids for success, less about your family, but your actual kids for success. That's where we're seeing a lot of the marketing message really fit with the market.
Like setting them up with the death benefit, or setting them up with IULs as well?
Yeah, IULs as well. And then there's other plans here in Canada. One's we call it the Kids Wealth Plan, where it's like an IUL, basically grows over time, and it gives them the benefits of if the parent dies, and then they can go to school still and buy a house and all that kind of stuff. And to a lot of people, that's really important. And, if I had kids, that'd be the number one thing I'd be doing too.
Yeah, it's huge. If you're not insured, especially as a parent, like that's something that like you need to do right away.
Yep.
That's for sure. Like it's massive. And you're able to. Are you like getting big? Are you seeing bigger premiums with the general term, or are you seeing bigger premiums with final expense?
Depends on the client. So final expense can be a pretty big premium just because, usually as you get older, you have more health problems. So, the cost of premiums go up. But on the flip side, here's how I look at it. Seniors, they, God bless them, but they only really, once they get their insurance, they're only maybe around for another 20 or 30 years. Whereas with parents, they generally, they'll buy insurance at 25, 30, 35, and they'll be your prospect, or rather your client, for 30 or 40 years. So you'll have a book that just lasts forever, basically. And so if you're not just focused on that first sale, although you should be focused on the first sale to get them in the door, obviously, but there's so much backdoor opportunity that, to me, it's kind of hard. It's not apples to apples, with the final expense. Yeah, the premiums are huge up front, but like the long-term ability for the parents on the back end, there's so much opportunity there, not only for IOLs and for the parents and stuff like that, but also there's also money plays too. So
Yeah, that's big. You've helped me a lot. Like the marketing side's big. I guess let me ask you this. So like if somebody, what's your advice? Because you and I get bombarded with a lot of people asking for advice on generating their own leads, finding out good ads. I think what we've kind of found is that it's harder than a lot of people think. And it's just like it's actually pretty hard to like crack that code unless you have somebody. Like I probably wouldn't have cracked the code unless you would have like really walked me through the whole process.
right.
What's your, I guess, take on generating leads, when the right time is, and then also like the step by steps to like get some solid leads at a low cost? Because that's the thing of the day, what people want.
Sure. Well, really, there's two approaches to it. It's like if you already have a marketing background and you understand sales psychology, then maybe generating your own leads might be a good fit for you. But for the vast majority of agents, especially the new ones, you got to focus more on sales. You need to focus on sharpening your sales skills, basically. So if you're not, if you're out there trying to make your own leads and all that kind of stuff, that's great. But what's going to happen is that you're not going to know how to close them. And then what happens is then you're going to go broke anyways. So, really what you want to do is either find a proper lead vendor, or even if you go captive, just so that you can get, leads at a decent cost, and then you learn the ropes before you start focusing on marketing and doing all this, crazy stuff. I think that's where you need to be. You need to start off with, getting leads at a cost-effective price that you're profitable. And then, in the future, as you have more downlines, you have more ability you're able to start, generating your own leads. And that's where, if you have people underneath you and have more time to do that, then that's where you should be focusing on, generating leads for yourself and your teams. But, honestly, at the very beginning, if you're not selling properly or don't know how to sell properly, like the number one thing is to learn how to sell and get leads. If you can find cheap enough leads, then that's great, because as long as you're profitable and you're learning, that's great. So
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And I think especially I think that I don't know if it's just now or whatever it is. Like I feel like there's just a self-gen like wave of like people. I don't know if it just opened up or I just started seeing it, but I think there's been a lot more people that are like all about, hey, generate your own leads. But the reality is like you can have great leads, but if you don't know how to close, then it just doesn't matter.
Yep.
Right? Because I think like the stuff, part of the stuff that I haven't shared, I feel like in terms of when I was generating my own leads, is that I had to scrape and call and dig for sales over time. And it was like every single day, like I literally left the agency I had. I literally recruited 69 people in a month. That was in October. And from there, it just didn't make, like we got hit 100,000 a month. And then it just kind of went to like 70,000. Then it went to like 60,000 or something like that. And that was in December. And then I left. And then I was like, I need to figure this out because I'm not making money. Nobody's making money here. It's pretty discouraging. And so I went in and then I just put my head down and just like dialed, because you either have time or you have money.
Yep.
And so you can either pay premium for leads, and people, I think another thing is like live transfers. Everybody wants to buy live transfers. Everybody, like, it's just like, if you don't know how to sell, like those aren't going to matter, and you're wasting more money. So what I did is sit down for like literally all day and work for, like, actually work for 8 hours straight, because I never really had money. But and then it's like, okay, every new lead, it was honestly got addicting. Every time I got a new lead, it's just like, this is an opportunity I can make $750 to $1,000 on. If I do that every day, it's literally just flipping. Like, it's very low cost to be able to do it, and you just make a lot of money doing it. So I think like my advice, especially to newer agents or agents like out there not making sales, and it may not be the leads, like it may be you, and you got to find somebody who like knows what they're doing and knows how to sell. Because yeah, I think like that there's a plague of like not bad, like really bad salespeople, and they just think it's the leads. And the moment that you take full accountability of your results, like that's when you'll really start seeing success. Do you have anything, I guess, to add to that, or thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, I mean, especially when you're new, like, again, sometimes going captive would be a good idea, just because they teach you how to sell, but also to have systems in place. That's incredibly imperative to have a system in place, because if if a lead comes in and you might call them and then kind of, go on to the next one, you're focused on generating as many leads as possible, but you're not really focusing on calling those leads over and over again until they pick up, because sometimes people don't pick up because, I mean, obviously they're getting spam called all day, but at the same time, if they see a single number that's calling them over and over again, eventually they're going to pick up. They're going to say, who is this person trying to get a hold of me? And eventually you'll get through to them. But most agents don't do that. In fact, most salespeople call less than 6 times, basically. And I would even argue it's even less than that. This is not just insurance. This is like across all industries, basically.
Yeah.
Most salespeople don't call more than 6 times, and most sales happen on the ninth to 12th call. So there's a big discrepancy between, somebody who's saying, oh, these leads suck because, yada, yada, yada. I'm buying a lot of leads, but none of them are closing, versus somebody who might just get, maybe half the amount of leads, but they're closing way more because they're more consistent about it. They have a system in place. They're setting aside the time to actually call the leads, which is critical. So, and that's why we have virtual assistants in our teams, because we know that our sales guys, when they're busy, they can't get to the phone right away to call out new leads. So we'll make sure that, our assistants actually get a hold of these people and do warm transfers internally. So, I mean, but that's a bigger play, and I don't really want to get into that too much right now, but that's kind of where you need to look at. It's just like, leads are the lifeblood of your business, but, without reaching out to them, you have no business. So.
Well, I kind of want to touch on that a little bit, because you've constantly pushed me to get a dialer. I had one for a little bit, didn't have great success. Like, you've had great success on that. What are some things that you've found to be successful in having a dialer? You can go in as much detail as you want on that.
Sure. So a dialer, they're important in the sense that, especially when you start getting, a fair bit of leads, or if, for example, even if it's not about the amount of leads that you're getting, but if you're on the phone a lot, doing a lot more deals, but you're not able to get to leads fast enough, that's pretty important. But, for us specifically, what's nice about having a dialer is it's about the consistency. We know that someone's constantly calling these leads as soon as they come in, and then over time, so in our agency, we've done the numbers. Kyle's spent, weeks putting together these numbers, and he's crazy. Like, he's like, Rain Man, where it's just like, the numbers on Excel, like he spends all this time doing it. But what he's found, and this is what I'm kind of discovering too, is that over 90% of our sales happen within the first 7 days of the leads coming in, basically, meaning that, and also 50% of our sales come from the first day. So when the leads first generated, half our sales come from the first day, and then the rest of them basically come from the first 7 days.
Wow. So
that just goes to show that, like, it's really about consistently calling out and making sure that someone's making connections some way, shape, or form. And we do it not just by phone, but also by automated text messages as well.
Yeah. So what's the dialer doing? Like what's their kind of processes that you have in place that they're dialing on?
Sure. So first and foremost, like the priority for them is if a lead comes in, you're dropping everything and you're calling that lead like immediately, making that contact right. You're double dialing. Some people like to triple dial. I don't know. So we get a lot of people getting mad at us for triple dials, but if it makes sales, then do it. But we stick to double dials, which is fine. And then, if they don't pick up, then she's calling, 3 hours later, basically. She's making contact at least twice a day or attempting contact twice a day. And then what we do is we make sure that we have our dialing list into two lists, basically. First list is the first, I think it's the first 5 days where it's just like she's calling these people twice a day and then she's prioritizing that list. And then anything beyond 5 days, like 5 to 14 days, she'll call, when she gets around to it, basically. But first leads who come in right away, like get to them right away, then the older leads, and then the oldest leads. So in that order, because then you want to make sure that you're prioritizing the new leads so that you're getting to them as fast as possible.
So just to clarify, so like a new lead takes top priority, then you got the 0 to 5 days range, and they're calling like morning and then afternoon, and then if she goes through that morning list and hasn't hit the afternoon, then dialing like older leads.
Then only dialing older leads, yeah. I mean, at one point we had about like 1,700 leads in her list, and she got through them. Like, she is a beast. She's got through all the leads basically, and I think it was like 2 weeks where she's like, I called everybody like 28 times. It's just like, if you don't pick up after 28 times, they're probably never going to pick up. So that's how we look at it. And so, but we'll put them in like text message automations and email follow-up campaigns, but aside from that, like we know that most of our sales, or in fact, all of our sales, really either start with a phone call or that initial, text message. So,
yeah, that's huge, especially with the like dialing them constantly. Do you know like your like how many people you're able to get a hold of, like the percentage of them, or do you not have that number?
No, I do. It's just over a third, basically. So, yeah, so about 33%, give or take. We contact, and it's like it depends on the month too. Sometimes it goes up to half, and then sometimes it drops. But it's a like average is about 33%, which is pretty good. Because I mean, again, some people don't like they'll never answer a phone call ever, which is understandable. I mean, I ignore my phone all the time too. But that's just the name of the game. So, and it's going to get increasingly happening. So that's why again that's why we supplement it with text messages as well.
Okay. And so what's your, like the texting automation? You got texting going out, like every day or every couple days, or what's that kind of look like?
Well, this is actually something you and I worked on specifically. So we, this is something you kind of pointed out where, we were texting at one point, we're texting as soon as the lead comes in, and then we'll text maybe a day or two later. But I think you found that the cadence, if you made it more like you text them every day with another question, it's just like you might lead with, hey, do you want a phone call? Or like, would you like to talk by text? If they don't respond to that, then maybe you ask more of a personal question, like, how much coverage you're looking for, or, who do you want to cover, who your beneficiary is, or, like what happens if you die? Do you have any plan for that?
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. And if you constantly hit them with questions, eventually one of those questions will trigger them. And that's really all this is just about starting a conversation. And, I'm talking less now. To me, in my head, it's less about leads anymore. It's more about conversations. What kind of conversations can you have with people? So,
yeah, I think that's something that I've like been focused on a lot too. Is like, how do you have high quality conversations daily, wherever that comes from, whether that's through live transfers, whether that's through just generating my own leads. I mean, I've kind of experimented with the live transfers, but what I've found is they're just not as profitable, especially if you're buying the transfers. And then the Facebook leads are profitable, but obviously you got to dig for gold. And so it's like, what's the balance on that? And so that's kind of what I'm trying to figure out. But getting a dialer in place is going to be huge. Somebody who's like calling leads constantly, because I mean, I've never, in all honesty, I've been pretty bad at that stuff. Like I've been pretty bad at like calling them 6 times, because it's like there's so many new leads that have come in. I mean,
yeah, I know. And I remember when you first started generating leads, you're like, you just like, your goal is to get like 100 leads a day basically. And I'm like, man,
Yeah.
how is that like I would go insane. Like I would, I'd have to turn everything off every day. Cause I'd be like, after, I think between you and I, we kind of realized like, after about 30 leads a day, it's just like, there's too many leads to handle basically.
Yeah.
So it's just like, to me, that's a hard cap unless you have a team under you. And even then 30 leads is a lot of leads, man. Cause I mean, you got to think if you're calling them twice a day, and each call takes about a minute kind of thing. That's a few hours just of dialing out. So that's not including the sales. So, someone who's looking for 100 leads a day, their priorities are not straight. Their priorities should be more about the quality of the lead and the quality of the contact.
Yeah. Cause that's when we were getting leads at like $1.70.
Yeah. Right.
Like $1.70. I was mad when it hit like 2.20. I was like, dude, this is annoying.
Yeah.
But still, like the acquisition cost was great. Now they're, floating around for me, right around like $350.
Yeah.
So they're not bad, but still great, good quality. And especially with the texting automations that we've set up, because we looked at how many leads, like there was like 1,000 or two. I forgot how many like actual text message conversations, but it was a lot that we looked through, and like
definitely like over 500 for sure. We kind of decided, okay, well, like, what's interesting about, the software that we're using through Agent AI is just like, we're able to determine, it's just like, okay, well, what type of text message is the one that actually triggers them to respond to you. So, and, it took us months to kind of figure that out, but eventually we got to that point where it's just like, okay, we know that, most people respond to this kind of text message. Again, not everybody responds to text, just like not everybody, responds to phone calls, and some people put bogus information in. That's just the name of, internet leads. That's the name of the game, unless they're getting something for free on the back end, which maybe that's why people are using, sweepstakes to generate leads. But it's, like you're just putting them in the wrong mindset at that point. It's just like they're expecting something for free, and, that's not what you want. You want to make sure that you're leading with the idea that they're interested in life insurance, and they want life insurance because they want to protect their family, and they don't want to, have that idea of, dying and leaving their family in a rut. So,
yeah, it's not easy. That's for sure. Like it's huge. Because there's a lot to that. That's for sure. And like when I was getting 100 leads a day, like it was way too much.
Oh yeah. You weren't able to get to them, period. Like, even let's forget about getting back to them, like double dialing or, calling them a few more times. I remember you on point where you were even getting to them and they're just falling down the list while new ones come in. And then you're just like calling whatever ones come in first. And you're like, man, it's like a gravy train. But I think you over time realize this is like, it's more sustainable to kind of get them in batches basically and work through them and, as they come in. So.
Yeah, try to dial them 6 times at least, because that's where you see the real resolution. It's like getting so many. Like there was one time I had 400 new leads sitting in there,
That's
and
right.
it was like, what do I do? So I had to like pretty much like set all those to the side, have somebody else call them, and I just started fresh. At like now I think at like $150 a day, but smooth 2 to 3 apps a day average, and just rolling. So I like that. What are you see kind of especially in the media buying space, lead gen stuff? How does, especially with you doing Agent AI, what are some ways that you see AI helping like bring more resolution to leads, and also like being able to create those higher quality conversations consistently?
Yeah. Well, when it comes to leads, it's really 3 things. So it's, it's intent, it's qualifying, and then it's, closing of the sale. So with AI, AI can really help you with the two first things, which is intent and the qualification, especially qualifications. So that's what we're using it for specifically. So we're having the AI, reach out to them, basically create that conversation, and then ask them qualifying questions, because you don't want to get to on a phone with somebody who can't afford insurance or that doesn't qualify for insurance. Although it might not be such a case for, companies like, Senior Life, for example, where maybe they have less stringent, qualifications. But at the end of the day, it's just like, if they can't afford insurance or they're overinsured or whatever the case may be, you want to make sure you qualify for that, so you don't waste your time on the phone with them, so you can spend, time talking with other people. And then on the intent part, like for right now, we're using Facebook's algorithm essentially to target people specifically, for who really actually in the position to actually say, yes, I do want life insurance, because like based on their browsing history and like maybe life events and stuff like that. So that is where like we're actually using Facebook's learning algorithm there. So that's kind of interesting. And by Facebook, I also mean Meta and Instagram and all their new apps basically like that. But I mean, to me, that's where the action is right now, especially for final expense, because I mean, I remember you're talking about, maybe doing TikTok, but for final expense, I mean, anybody over the age of 50 is on Facebook right now. So,
yeah. So pretty much AI being able to like get the higher quality conversations
yep.
going and more consistently. And then what about like just the lead gen side? Like what, like, is it going to stay on Facebook forever, or like what's kind of your thought process with that?
It's about being omni-channel present, meaning that, here's the thing, like someone might see your advertising on Facebook and they might think it's interesting. Then what might happen is they'll leave the platform and they'll go on YouTube. So like, YouTube is if arguably bigger than Facebook. Everyone's on YouTube now. So maybe they'll see your ad on Facebook, maybe they'll click on it, maybe they won't fill out the form, or maybe they do, and then they kind of forget everything and they ignore your phone calls and your text messages. But then they see a video from you now on YouTube because you're able to retarget them, for example, in that case. And so then because YouTube, it gives you a format to maybe have longer ads, then you're able to really hone in on their emotional state. So then they kind of open up more and then you're able to close the deal. And TikTok's starting to open up that way too. Google, for example, you can target people specifically with Google if they typed in like, buy life insurance or get a life insurance quote. And if, for example, they saw your ad on Facebook and they showed intent, you could bid higher for that keyword, for example. So it's really, again, being about omni-channel present. It's just, I don't really focus on that right now, but we are heading towards that because, again, like right now, Facebook's like, it's kind of, sorry the pun, but it's like shooting fish in a barrel right now, basically, because it's just, there's so many seniors on Facebook. There's so many families on Facebook, and to having to split my attention across different channels right now, it's not necessary at this very moment. Maybe in a few years, but again, there's just so many people on Facebook. It's crazy. So
the riches are in the niches.
That's right.
And have you ran any ads on YouTube or not really?
I haven't ran ads specifically on Facebook, or sorry, on YouTube, just because we've been doing so well on Facebook. But a lot of the ads that we run on Facebook can translate very well to YouTube. So just because the way we're structuring it, there's two types of ads that you can run on Facebook, image ads and video ads. Like we're starting really to hone in on video ads, and a lot of these video ads can translate over to YouTube very well. They're very emotionally based ads. We're finding that, and with these type of emotional based ads, people are more likely to convert because it's less about talking about pricing and all that kind of stuff. It's more about pulling out heartstrings, like what happens if you pass away, what happens to your kids. In our case, we're running an ad, talking about, millionaire life insurance for kids, basically. So if you die, your kid's set up for life, basically. So, that kind of thing really resonates with families.
Yeah. And those are really high quality, right? Because you said your closing rate's what, like 20 or 30%, something like that?
For the parents, it's about 20% right now. Yeah.
Yeah. That's
now, but that's like overall. So I mean, like, and we're having a lot higher conversation rate because to us, final expense kind of drags it down a bit in terms of like the closing rate, like overall. But it's just because, again, there's just the volume of final expense is just crazy. It's just so we're still trying to hone in our marketing message for the final expense stuff. It's working really well. It's just like, but for the parent stuff, it's insane. So
yeah. What would if somebody's trying to get, say, 10 quality conversations a day, what would be kind of your thought process with like being able to help get them there?
Yeah. Well, you need a pipeline that's full. So you can't expect that if you get 10 leads a day, that you'll have 10 quality conversations. So So really it's about kind of building it over time. So, like for example, like I was saying, that 14 or 7 to 14 day window, you're going to be, just say if you generate 10 leads a day, for example, or you buy 10 leads a day over 14 days, that's, if my math's right, it's 140 leads, but eventually people will start picking up the phone, and eventually you'll start being able to talk to more people, but it's going to take time. Like that first week or two, it's going to take time to build up that bankroll of leads. So, but in order to make the conversations, you really got to get your lead immediately. You have to have automations in the back end using, AI, or even if it's just, something you program basically, just to make sure that they're getting texted on a daily basis, and, questions are being asked to provoke them to, get you on the phone with them. So.
Yeah. So the texting automations, probably a dialer in there, I'm assuming too.
A dialer would be pretty huge, but again, if you have all the time in the world, if you have more time than money, then you should be the one calling basically.
Yeah. Yeah. When's the right time for somebody to get a dialer, you think?
The right time is when you have way more appointments, or more, you're talking to people more than you are able to actually reach out basically. So it's kind of a tipping point, and for everybody it's different, but in our situation, between me and Kyle, basically we saw that there were a whole bunch of leads coming in, and between like him and his family, he wasn't able to get to them fast enough. So we brought on, instead of a dialer, we actually brought on another agent under us, and he was starting to dial out, and then eventually he got too busy with appointments and sales, that we needed to eventually bring in that dialer. So for everybody it's unique, but if it's just like a one-man show, for example, the point is just like if you're dropping the ball and you're not able to get to people fast enough, then you should consider a dialer. And dialers don't necessarily need to be expensive. We employ people from the Philippines, for example, and they're pretty cost effective, and it doesn't have to be expensive. You just got to make sure that you're training the right people and have the right systems in place.
Yeah. And are they doing just warm transfers or setting appointments for your agents?
They're doing both. We prefer warm transfers just because sometimes people don't show up to appointments. Although we're finding, so here's the thing with Facebook leads, if someone books an appointment on your calendar, they're not very likely to show it's not a very good show rate, we're finding.
Yeah.
But having said that, if you have someone on the phone and they book an appointment with you over the phone, their showing rate's going to be way, way higher. We're talking, going from maybe 1 or 2 out of 10 to more like 7 out of 10 people actually showing up to the appointment. So there's a big difference there. But we prefer warm transfers just because, like they're already hot, they're already in the moment. Why don't we get this done and get it out of the way? Because, it's, in this case, it's not like you're gaining anything by waiting for a sale later on. Like arguably they're worse off for waiting for a sale because, their rates could go up. So.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's something that I've tried to experiment, or I'm thinking about too, because I think that's like it all comes down to leverage, right? And so like as I was like really like studying like what Alex Hormozy talks about on that, and like really like the leverage part, it's not like, hey, you're doing more, it's being able to get more out of what you do and getting more output for what you put in. And so I'm like, if I'm trying to really gain a lot of leverage and being able to close deals all day, the leverage is not me calling, but it's closing.
That's right.
And so I'm trying to solve that problem of getting the conversations. And so it's like, I think predictably, because like the transfers, like, I think that's kind of like up and down. It could go up and down, but I think appointments, if you have a consistent, hey, I want 50 appointments set a week or 80 appointments set a week or whatever, I think that'll give you a more predictable flow of appointments. But having a dialer set those appointments, I don't know. I'm trying to like think of that. What are, I guess, your thoughts on that? What would you say? Because I've been kind of going back and forth with it on being able to like scale up more like my production.
Sure. Well, I think you should be doing whatever obviously produces results. I mean, that's pretty obvious, but I think it really boils down to, like if you're able to book more appointments so you can fill up gaps of times, and then when you have a bit more availability, you have your dialer dial out to fill up your time then for warm transfers. It's kind of like the best of both worlds. So, and a lot of it also boils down to how you structure your advertising too, or how your leads come in basically. Like if they're under the impression that someone's going to call out to them, then that should be done. But if they're under the impression that they need to book an appointment and have all this, they have to do all this work ahead of time, then, maybe the lead quality might be better. Who knows? It doesn't, it's hard to tell until you actually do it yourself or you put the systems in place to figure out if it works or not.
Yeah, because I'm trying to figure out I've just like, it's weird because I used to get pre-booked appointments like all day from the ads, and then I ran a new like funnel, and then like I can't get anybody to book an appointment. And it's like there's no VSL, it's just a straight calendar link, but still like I was getting people booking before.
Right. I think
So
in your case, if I recall correctly, is we put a survey between the calendar and the ad, basically, right?
yeah,
So
but then
that's
I
yeah.
just put a calendar. So I took the
Oh,
survey out and then
right.
just put a calendar.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, it could be the ad. Like it depends on what we're doing with the ad, but like to me, again, like and you probably that's probably why you stopped doing the calendar thing too at one point was because most people weren't showing up. So
no.
and here's the thing, and this is what we're learning now too, is that we are sending people to a calendar, our system, where we're trying that. But what we do is even if they book on the calendar, we call them anyways. We call them right away and we say, hey, we saw you booked on the calendar. We just wanted to confirm your appointment. And they say, oh yeah, let's have the appointment then. And we'll say, okay, well, we actually have an agent available right now. Are you ready to speak right now? And a lot of the times they are ready to speak, and then you're able to close the deal then. So yeah, like having a calendar is a good thing if because it does add that extra layer of commitment. And so sometimes you just have to experiment. You have to see if asking all these qualifying questions through a survey yields a better response than just having the book on a calendar, because maybe the latter is better, just because they're saying, yes, I do want to talk to somebody, and as soon as possible, kind of thing.
Yeah, that's big. Yeah, that's huge because those people on the calendar would not show. I mean, my show rate was maybe like 20%.
Yeah.
It was absolutely garbage. But I was thinking if I could get like 30 to 40 appointments a day, like somebody booking all those appointments, then it's like, okay, then 20%, the numbers work itself out.
Yes.
But it's just like getting that dialed in. Because even if say like 80% no show, like you're still getting a really good amount of conversations per day, not even including the people who didn't book. But yeah.
Yeah,
Are
it
you
really, sorry, it really does boil down to, it's just like you have to experiment, because for some people, I know some agents that just work appointments. It's just because of the way their funnel set up. Like they have, for them, they have their own video ad basically, where it's like them on camera and they're talking about the need for life insurance, and then it's them on the landing page where the survey is, and it's them on the landing page where they put the calendar. And so these people, are expecting to talk to that person. Is that the most scalable thing? Maybe not, but for an individual agent, it probably would be the most profitable thing. But again, like if you don't know how to run an ad, you don't know how to run Facebook, you don't know how to make videos, like that's the least you're concerned right now, especially if you're new to selling, and even if you're established at selling, and like that might not necessarily be the first thing you should be doing. You should be focused on like having the systems in place first, and then kind of building towards the advertising.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's really good. I know you got to go here soon. This has been a great conversation just for a new agent and somebody like wanting to go out, start crushing it. Um, should somebody like, from what you've seen, like going telesales, like what would you say like is a good way to like transition from face to face to telesales?
Yeah, there's actually a couple of agents that did that with us,
Yeah.
that you referred over to me, and they basically had their feet in both pools, basically, in which I think that was a smart idea, because you don't know what to expect when it comes to telesales. Telesales to me is well, first of all, more lucrative than face to face, because you're able to talk to more people. At the same time, you're able to generate leads, usually generate quicker. And I wouldn't necessarily say that the leads are better quality, but to make that transition from face to face to telesales, if you can do both at first, to kind of experiment with telesales and then make the transition over to face to face, I think that's the best path forward, especially if you're already semi-successful with face to face, because you have just continue what you're doing face to face, kind of scale it back, and then do more telesales, and then eventually you just drop face to face altogether. I put it this way: everybody I've talked to who's been doing face to face and made the transition to telesales, they never go back to face again. It just doesn't happen because it's just because you're like, face to face, you're limited by your geographical zone. You're like, you can only drive so far in a day, right? Whereas with the telesales, you can call anybody from New York to California. So it's just to me, it's a no-brainer for doing telesales. But again, if you're doing face-to-face, let telemarketer and telesales be supplementary towards what you're doing with face-to-face, and then make that transition.
That's a great like practical to get there, because I've only pretty much done telesales. And so it definitely is scary at first, but once you get it down, it's addicting, because I mean, I'm just kind of like casual and just on Zoom. And what's cool, what I found, and this is why like I've like tripled down on telesales, because it's infinitely scalable. Because I could be closing a deal and there could be one agent on the Zoom, or there could be 100 or 1,000 agents on the Zoom, and I'm still able to train them all at the same time. Plus, with our agency, like we're on Zoom every day, all day. We do role plays for 30 minutes in the morning, which gets everybody loose, ready to go. But then I'm training people as they're getting people on the phone. They're getting people on the phone. I'm literally whispering in their ear, say this, say that, say this. And last week, there's 2 people closed their first deals in the same day, like back to back, like second or third day. And it's cool because I was like, they were like getting hit with an objection, and I was like whispering in their ear, like, say this, say that. And then they all of a sudden close their deals. And that wouldn't happen in face-to-face, because even an agent that we have, he's like, every time that I would set up a face-to-face appointment, I'd go through the underwriting, and then I'd call my mentor and say, hey, is this what I need to do? But what's cool about just sitting on Zoom with them is that I'm hearing the whole conversation. And they can't say, and they unmute, right? So that I could hear the client, and they can't be like, oh, I said this. And it's like, okay, you didn't say that. I heard it. And you hear the whole conversation. So it's really cool to see just like what telesales can do and how you can really grow, because the scalability isn't the same face to face. I think it's easier in the moment, but then like scaling, like we're going to hit 100,000 a month in the next couple of months, just because it's that simple.
Well, first of all, I didn't realize that you were on calls with, helping people. That's amazing. First of all, that just goes to testament. First of all, it shows your character as a person. You really wanted to make your team successful. At the same time, I think that's amazing, because, like, where else can you get that kind of experience? Because like, you're a proven seller, right? And at the same time, it's just like, I wish I had that growing up, having someone in my corner, basically telling me how to, close a deal. Because otherwise you're just, taking lumps, and you're buying, face-to-face leads, which aren't cheap. Face-to-face leads are really expensive. And a lot of times you get your door slammed in your face, and you have no idea why. Whereas this is like, okay, what's the worst that's gonna happen? Someone's gonna hang up the phone on you. Okay, well, on to the next call. You don't have to get in your car to go anywhere. It's just, anyways. But having that support from you, man, that sounds amazing. So like, keep that up, because I think that's that's how you really scale an agency, and that's really how you scale a community of people.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I think that's what's cool, is that's what like a lot of people ask, what's like different with somebody else, or like with your agency. And I would say like that's one of the biggest things. Nobody else has that. Like there's a couple people maybe, but like having because what's cool is like a lot of people lack and have hey, somebody recruits them into the business and they're not there. They don't follow through on their promises. And I'm like, I'm literally on it all day. And I'm like, if you have any questions, you know where to find me. You have access to me whenever you want, especially on my team. And what's cool, when they get somebody on the phone, like, I'll help you through the whole application. Like, and that's not the first one. We've had 5 or 6 people on their first day. There's a guy, he came from a different IMO, wasn't really making sales. First day, he closed 2 deals back to back.
Wow.
Never done any he's done telesales, but he never worked with this carrier before. He just shared his screen, and I walked him through the whole process. He just muted the client. He's like, what do I do now? Didn't even know how to find the routing number. I looked it up for him. I was like, this is the routing number. Ask for the account number now. Ask for the account number, close the sale. And it's cool because that guy actually got paid. What's cool about Senior Life is that they pay daily, but he got paid. He made a sale at 11 Eastern, got paid into his account at 8 p.m. Eastern. Wow. He saw the money in his account. So
you can't even work at a job and see money like that. You have to wait a week or two just to get paid.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
It's
think you're onto
ridiculous.
something with this, with what you're doing with your agency for sure, man. Because I think that's, at the end of the day, it's just like that support is so critical, and that's how you keep people going and encouraged. Because yeah, you're saying other IMOs don't do that kind of stuff. It's just like I think what you're doing is pretty innovative. So
You grow the community, right? And then
yeah,
also people get to learn, and it's like you're going into work. That's where I had a huge turn in my business when I just got on Zoom every single day with one other guy, and I just poured everything into him, critiqued his sales skills, and then also like I was closing in front of him, and then he's listening to me all day. So yeah, it's definitely cool. We got a lot of awesome things going. But if somebody wants to reach out to you with Agent AI or things like that or whatever, how can they reach you?
I'm a pretty reserved person, so I don't really like to get reached out to often. But if you want to draw me a line, you just hit me up on the website. It's agentai.net. So agentai.net. Yeah, I'm not really on social media, but you can try to add me on Facebook. I won't maybe add you as a friend, but sorry, that's just how it is. But
Yeah.
I just like to keep to myself. But if you wanted to, ask, if you wanted to help with that kind of stuff, by all means. Actually, I'm in Johnny's group right now. Actually, I'm in your group, so reach out to me there. Tag me and I can respond. But that's where I am pretty most of the time anyway. So
Yeah, he's a busy guy, guys. So don't reach out. No, I'm just kidding. But he is busy. But yeah. So if you guys are watching this, haven't joined my private community, definitely click the link down below and apply. Only taking people who like really are serious about wanting to grow in the telesales space. And we got a lot of cool stuff. We got so many different people coming on, pouring tons of value. I'm doing a 10-part series right now. We've got like John Wetmore. We've had Justin Von Meegen. We've had Jason Richter, Josh Young's $1 Million a Year producer, David Price, the fastest millionaire. I mean, like there's no other Facebook community that you can go to in the insurance space that's giving as much value as that. So I appreciate you. I'm excited for us like continue moving forward, continue growing, innovating, doing special stuff in the space, especially transforming like the way insurance is sold. So it's cool. I appreciate you guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you haven't already, subscribe down below, drop a comment, let us know what you thought, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.
see you guys.